There's been a lot of hardware news lately, mostly with the introduction of Skylake, Broadwell E. We have these Extreme Edition 10-core processors. We have new gaming graphics cards. The GTX 1080, 1070 just launched. The 1060 is probably going to launch next week. AMD released the RX 480 after teasing it with Linus Tech Tips. And it's just going to be a great year for hardware, rather. Because we have graphics cards now at a price point of $200 that outcompete the GTX 970, a 2-year-old graphics card from NVIDIA, that launched at around $350. And two of these RX 480s, priced each at $200, so $400 total, will actually outcompete a GTX 1080 at around $600 to $700. And you're spending only, what, 2/3 as much? So that is absolutely crazy. I'd love to see where the market is going. I wouldn't even suggest you buy this PC build immediately because, like I said, the GTX 1060 is coming out next week, most likely, if rumors are true. And that thing could be a really big competitor of the RX 480, and it might beat it in terms of performance. Maybe not price. I don't know. It's just rumors, but the GTX 1060 is suspected to be a little bit more expensive, like $250 to $300. But I guess we'll have to see when it gets released. Anyhow, right now, I have a $600 gaming PC built. Now, this gaming PC, you will probably be able to max out every game you want at 1080p. Basically, no question. This is an absolutely superb 1080p gaming PC at 60 Hz. So this is actually a really great PC if you want overkill for 1080p, because again, this is bringing you GTX 970 performance, and that card was a beast at 1080p, and it's even a beast at 1440. So this PC will also be great at 1440p, without question. You might have to dock settings down a little bit, not keep everything at ultra. Might have to make MSAA a little bit lower. That's okay though, that's expected. So I'm going to stop rambling. Let's go on with the actual build. By the way, if you ever get sick of my voice, just go in the description. You can look at the PC part picker list. For the CPU, I chose the Intel Core i3-6100. It's a dual-core CPU, but it has hyper-threading, so not really a dual-core. I think Far Cry 3 or Far Cry 4 had troubles with dual-core CPUs. So I don't know if any other games are having those issues, plus that was a little while ago. But if gaming ever comes to that, where dual-core CPUs just become too outdated, there's hyper-threading. It's clocked at 3.7 gigahertz, and I believe you can overclock these CPUs still, depending on some motherboards. I'm not including a CPU cooler in this build. That's on you if you want to spend the extra $20 for something like a Hyper 212 Evo. For the motherboard, I chose the MSI B150M Bazooka. Has 4 RAM slots, which means you can upgrade even more of your RAM in the future if you wanted. I don't know if you would, though, considering you'd have 32 gigabytes of it. Not much more to say about this motherboard. It's a B150 chipset, so if you wanted to, maybe you could overclock. It's $66, and it's one of the cheapest ones with 4 RAM slots, besides a Gigabyte motherboard that had like 3 stars, so I didn't want to go with that one. Plus, it has a $10 mail-in rebate, bringing the price down even more. For the memory, we have G.Skill's Ripjaws 4 series, 2 8GB sticks, total 16 GB, at 2133 MHz for $53. Nothing more to say. Good latency, good megahertz speed. 2133. That's pretty okay. It's not the best. But what are you gonna do? $53, 16 gigabytes of RAM. Basically unexcusable, I think, at this point. You need 16 gigabytes of RAM with these RAM prices. Because newer games, I play Black Ops 3 with 8 gigabytes of RAM in my system, and it maxes out the RAM. I get errors all the time, like page file usage maxed out, and then I look in my task manager, and it's like using anywhere from 7.5 gigs to all of my RAM just playing Black Ops 3. So 16 gigabytes, pick it up, It's only $20 more than 8 gigs at this point, and you'll get performance gains in newer games. For the storage, I have an SSD and a hard drive, the PNY CS1311 240 gig SSD. Really cheap, $55, but it's not cheap when it comes to performance because this thing gets 550 megabytes per second read speeds and up to 520 megabyte per second write speeds. So really fast if you want to put some of your games on there, really fast for video encoding, And if you want to install Windows on there, you're going to boot up really quickly. Of course, I'm not going to just include a 240 gig SSD. We also have a 1 terabyte Seagate Barracuda hard drive, $49, pretty standard. Depending on which one's cheaper, this or the WD Caviar Blue, go for one of those. They're basically the same when it comes to performance. For the graphics card, we have AMD's brand new Radeon RX 480. The 4GB model, so it comes in at $200. And the only reason I want to go with the 4GB model is you can flash this card to have more RAM. Like, that almost sounds like, what? That doesn't make sense. But AMD apparently shipped the 4GB cards with 8GB of RAM, and you can just flash the BIOS, and it'll have more VRAM. It's so weird. You can flash this card with 4GB of VRAM, and then you get 8 gigs. So that'll be very helpful for 1440p. Even 1080p, Rise of the Tomb Raider uses more than 7 gigs of VRAM, totally maxed out at 1080p. Not to mention RX 480, much better than NVIDIA counterparts in DX12, so that's something to keep in mind. For the case, I have the Enermax Thorax. Friend I know had this case. It's pretty good, Nothing crazy. It's not no Fantex Intu Pro or Fractal Define R5. But, for $28.99, it's the best budget case probably at that price that I actually have experience with. You can fit all your crap in there. Not a lot of cable management, but what do you expect? It's a $29 case. It's pretty minimal. No flashy lights or anything. Just a black and gray style with some gamer angly look on the front. All those angles means you're a gamer, And for the power supply, EVGA 450 watt 80 plus bronze. This build uses 298 watts at load, so 450 watts is more than enough. If you want to overclock the GPU and even the CPU, if you want to go that route, you'll have more than enough wattage to do so. I have the 600 watt variant of this power supply, the 600B from EVGA. It's pretty good. I have no problems with it, actually. Thank you all for watching this video. If you liked, press the like button. If you like this type of content, well, we make a bunch at Geek Loot Gaming, so subscribe, Geek Loot Gaming. Leave a comment below. What would you do? What would you do with this kind of money? I don't know, maybe you'd upgrade your setup, get some monitors or something, or get a completely different kind of PC. Maybe you'll wait for the GTX 1060, which I would recommend, because we don't know what the 1060 will bring to the table compared to the RX 480. Anyhow, thanks for watching. Goodbye.